The shift had just turned over when the man arrived. Rain clung to his coat like a second skin, the gurney wheels squealing through the corridor as nurses stepped back to avoid him. Someone muttered, "Homeless again," under their breath. The smell of smoke and earth followed him in, an odor that made people wrinkle their noses and walk faster. Elena Carver didn't. She was already at the bedside before anyone else moved. "Vitals first," she said, calm but firm. No one volunteered to help. The triage nurse shrugged. "He's not even conscious, Elena. You don't know what he's carrying." It wasn't the first time Elena had heard that tone. It came from the same place as laughter at cheap shoes, or the silence that followed when she tried to speak in staff meetings. Once, long ago, she'd been like them, bright scrubs, bright dreams. That was before her mother's medical bills, before the second job and the quiet decision to never ask for anything again. She slipped on gloves and started cleaning the man's hands. Burn scars crossed old surgical calluses. His fingernails were broken, but trimmed with care, a detail no one else saw. He was someone's doctor, she thought, almost absently. Behind her, 2 interns leaned near the medicine cart. "Why is she wasting time on that case?" one whispered. "Looks like he hasn't bathed in weeks. Or months." A short laugh. "Maybe she likes fixing hopeless ones." Elena didn't turn around. The sound still cut. The same laughter had followed her years ago, when she fainted during her first clinical rotation and woke up to find her supervisor saying, "Maybe nursing isn't for everyone." She'd finished that shift anyway. She always did. By midnight, the ward hummed with fatigue and fluorescent buzz. The John Doe still hadn't woken. Elena stayed long past her rotation, charting his vitals, adjusting his blanket when no one was watching. There was a dignity in his stillness, a soldier's discipline, even in collapse. When Dr. Lydia Rowan finally passed through the ER, she stopped at Elena's station. "Carver, why are you still on him? You have 3 other patients." "He's stable now, but dehydrated. I'm keeping an eye on his pressure." Rowan sighed, crisp and tired. "You're too attached to cases like this. Some people don't want saving." Elena met her eyes only for a second. Maybe they just don't expect anyone to try. It earned her a long stare, half irritation, half curiosity. Then Rowan moved on. The night deepened. Rain ticked against the windows. Elena rested her hand on the patient's arm for a moment, just enough for warmth to pass between them. His eyelids fluttered, but didn't open. Beneath the grime, his face was steady, strong in a way that once must have commanded rooms. When she finally left for the staff locker, her reflection in the metal cabinet looked hollow but calm. The kind of calm that comes after standing still in a storm. When she finally left for the staff locker, her reflection in the metal cabinet looked hollow but calm. The kind of calm that comes after standing still in a storm. She thought of how easily people vanish when the world stops seeing them. How the same could happen to anyone, one wrong turn, one unpaid bill, one unhealed wound. Outside, thunder rolled low over the city. She pulled her jacket close and started toward the bus stop, unaware that upstairs, the man she'd treated was waking, his dry lips forming her name without knowing why. By morning, the hospital would no longer be quiet. The morning began with confusion. When Elena returned for her next shift, the usually dull hospital lobby pulsed with noise, reporters, flashing cameras, the hum of voices repeating one name she didn't recognize at first. Colonel Matthew Haynes. Upstairs, the ER buzzed differently. Doors opened and shut, staff hurrying with fresh uniforms and new politeness. Someone had cleaned the unknown mail room and replaced the worn blanket with crisp linen. Flowers sat by the window that hadn't been there the night before. Elena hesitated in the doorway. The man was sitting up now, pale but alert. The grime was gone, his hair combed back. He looked recognizable. A photograph flashed on a tablet beside him, the same face, younger, clean-shaven, standing among soldiers in desert light. "Morning, nurse," he said quietly. His voice was steady, formal, carrying something learned from years of command. "You remember me?" she asked. "I remember someone's hands washing mine when no one else would," he said. "That's enough." Before she could answer, Dr. Rowan entered, her tones suddenly warm. Colonel, we're honored to have you here. We had no idea. He cut her off gently. No one did. I asked for anonymity while I recovered from the field. Guess I got it. His faint smile faded. You all saved me anyway. Rowan shifted. Well, Nurse Carver insisted we keep you stable through the night. Her voice carried an edge of praise wrapped in apology. The colonel's gaze turned toward Elena again. Then I owe her more than I can say. It wasn't grand, but it stopped the room. For a moment, even the interns by the monitors looked down, ashamed. Later, as media filled the hallway, Elena kept working, pretending not to notice the whispers. She's the one who found him, someone said. The homeless guy was a war surgeon. By noon, the hospital administration gathered for a brief statement. The colonel wanted to speak. Cameras rolled. He stood slowly, for still attached, and cleared his throat. I served 20 years, he said, eyes moving over the crowd. But I didn't come here as a soldier. I came as a patient. Broken. Lost. And the only one who saw me as a man was a nurse who refused to look away. He paused. No dramatics, no tears, just quiet gravity. You can call it her duty, but I call it decency. The kind that holds the world together when titles fall apart. Behind the cameras, Elena stood half-hidden, her hands clasped behind her back. She wished he hadn't mentioned her. But something in his words, something calm, unembarrassed, unlocked the tightness in her chest that had been there for years. When the press left, Dr. Rowan approached her. Carver, she said softly, I misjudged you. Elena only nodded. You were right, though. Some people don't want saving. Rowan sighed. Then it's lucky you don't listen well. That night, the ward returned to its usual rhythm. The scent of disinfectant. The low hum of monitors. Elena changed a dressing, recorded vitals, and moved quietly between patients. But something was different. People met her eyes now. The janitor gave a small nod as she passed, the kind that said, I saw what you did. When she stepped outside at the end of her shift, the rain had stopped. The clouds thinned, letting pale sunlight spill across the wet pavement. Through the window above, she could see the colonel sitting upright, writing in a small leather notebook. He looked up briefly and lifted his hand in a silent salute, not to a superior, but to someone who had simply seen him as human. Elena smiled faintly, then walked away, her reflection passing through puddles that mirrored the morning light. No medals. No headlines she wanted. Just the quiet truth that, for once, decency had been witnessed, and that was enough.